Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Amasid and today I am going to walk through how I organize my stash tabs for League Start the maximum efficiency way, basically so you can dump stuff, go and keep playing the game, because we all know that the most important thing to do to make money, especially in the beginning of a league, is to just keep playing. You don't want to spend time waiting in your hideout doing nothing, organizing your tabs as best you can. There's time to do that at the end when you're sort of done, you're done playing for the day, but other than that, you want to keep pumping through things as quickly as you possibly can. So today we're going to go over, again, my top stash tabs. So if you're looking to get some stash tabs, the best ones that I think you need to get that are sort of top priority, as well as how to organize your stash tab for League Start. So looking through, so you can ignore these two because we're on standard and these are sort of, I have a lot of tabs, so we can just ignore all that stuff because this is standard and you don't need this. But all of these tabs are exactly how I organize my stash on League Start. So a few important things. So in terms of the most important tabs to get, besides sort of the basic ones that you come with, are going to be things. Currency is going to be number one, just having a place to dump your currency, followed by maps, assuming you're going to be playing into endgame, then divination, then frag. I think everything after that is extra. If you're going to get 4 tabs that are sort of, specific tabs, as in not just general tabs, like, for example, something like this or a quad tab, these are the 4 you're going to want to get in that order, in my opinion. It's going to be currency, maps, divinations, frags. Divinations and frags are kind of going to go either way, but you're going to end up with a lot of divination cards. You're going to end up with a lot of fragments. Maps are just going to be critical because you're going to fill up tabs full of maps if you don't get a map stash tab. So that would be where I would start after currency, but currency is going to be dropping the most. It's going to be dropping everywhere. You can see I've completely topped off my currency tab. There's just nothing to do with it, and we'll go through that in a bit. So when you're playing League, you don't want to spend time sorting through drops, doing all that stuff when the league starts. So the natural thing is to open up and create a dump tab. Now, I would recommend getting a quad tab for this, but you don't need a quad tab. You can easily use a normal tab and do it. But I usually do a quad tab, and I'll sort of, especially when I'm getting into end game in terms of mapping content, having a quad tab just makes life so much easier to dump things in. Now, very important, if you have a public stash tab, quad tab, as in something where you can post items in and, post prices, you want to make sure that it's always public. So the reason why this is that sometimes I'll just throw things in here and people will be offering me money while I didn't spend the time to actually price it. And this will save you a lot of time. Frankly, just people who are, sort of scanning the market, looking for new items. This will save you a lot of time in actually pricing things out. So if somebody whispers you and says, you have a random pair of boots in here and they're like, I'll give you 10 chaos for it, you can say, okay, hold on. And then, you stop what you're doing, you check, and then you go and you say, okay, well, these are actually worth 15 chaos, and maybe 10's fair. Maybe you want to just sell them. You can sell them much quicker that way without actually having to individually price them. Now, once you get to know the market economy a little bit better, you create these buckets. And these are the exact 4 buckets that I have every single League Start, because frankly, people don't have a lot of money on League Start. They're not going to be spending lots of chaos. So really, most of your stuff that you're selling is probably going to be concentrated in the 1 to 5 bucket. 10 would be a reach item in that case, because exalts are ridiculously cheap early on, because people don't have them and people don't have chaos, people don't have exalts. So you can, the chaos is worth a lot more, I should say. Exalts are not cheap, chaos is worth more. So basically what I'm doing is, a lot of the time, without having to price check things, if I get an item that I know is good, I can just dump it in one of these things, and basically if if I'm getting a ton of whispers, I'll take it and I'll move it up maybe to the 10 chaos bucket early league. But if I have it in the 5 chaos and it's sitting for an hour or 2, 3 hours, and the league's getting on, I'll drop it to the 3 chaos bucket and then down to the 1 chaos bucket, and then anything below this I will vendor. I don't sell anything below a chaos at any point in the league ever, no matter what. But the way to do this basically is to price things in buckets in the beginning, and then obviously as your league goes on later, you can have individual tabs that are saying, I'm setting this for 5x, I'm setting this for 5.2x, whatever. But in the beginning of the league, where prices are relatively stable and fluctuate in a very small margin, getting a 1 to 10 chaos margin range is pretty much where you want to be at. So you're not going to want anything more than 10C in there. So you drop in, maybe, let's say I'm getting a pair of gloves, drop in the 5C, it sells in an hour, I'm comfortable with that, I know I priced it right. But again, if it's sitting too long, or maybe you're getting too many whispers, you can sort of change as needed. So dump tab is really for things that maybe I just don't want to sort through right now, but not things that I think have inherent value. As the league goes on, I will use the dump tab as a general, just dumping all my items in after maps and not having to think about it without doing the pricing. But again, that's why you always leave the dump tab on public. So just in case, you know, you do just want to throw things in and not think about pricing at all as you're going along, you can just drop in the dump tab. Makes things easier. So sort tab. So not a lot of people will do this. This is something that I do, and you can choose to do this or not, but this is what I will do. I have a sort tab, which is basically, so the difference between dump and sort. So dump for me is just like unloading items as I get them, and so I don't have to think about it. And sort is more of things that I know I want to use later, or something that I know I want to keep for later. So sort is kind of like a catch-all for me for things like, for example, later in the league, I'll throw pure breachstones in here and things like that, just things that I know I want to hold on to, whereas dump is things that I'm basically just moving in on mindlessly. Sort is a little bit more intentional. Sort I'll only use basically after I've gone through my dump tab. But again, the primary focus on making money early league is to just get prices on things. So you want to utilize these these best offer stash tabs, and these 4 are the ones that I would set up if you have the option. If you only have, let's say, 2, I'd probably do 5 and 3 and maybe 5 and 1. You can always adjust. It's tough to say. I think really ideally the more tabs you have, the better, the more flexible you can be. But if you have limited options, you don't need a 10 in the beginning. Probably a 5, 3, and a 1 would be good. You can set maybe just a 5 and a 3 if you don't want to sell anything below that. It's really up to you. But in an ideal world, if you have the option, a 1, 3, a 5, and a 10 are a good place to start. And then again, if you end up with getting an item that's worth a ton, I probably wouldn't sell it very early league because you're going to get probably a bad deal for it relative to what it'll sell for in a few days or a week. So let's say, you know, for example, if you dropped a mirror, which is obviously an extreme example, you know, you don't want to sell a mirror in the first week of a league because you're going to get, you know, a quarter of the value that it's going to get in 2 or 3 weeks. So you want to hold on to that until it's in a comfortable place in the economy, and then you sell things. So that's just basically how it works. But like I said, these are the 4 I would highlight. Now, another important thing to note is stash tab affinities. So if you right click on any given stash tab here, it's got an affinity mark, and all of these have these check marks here. Now, you can set any normal general stash tab to have affinity. So even if you don't, let's say I didn't own a map stash tab, but I had this quad tab for whatever reason, I can set this to be my map quad tab, and basically anytime I jump a map in, it'll go. But otherwise, the nice thing is that, see, I've got this nice variety. I've got these stash affinities set up for divination, frag, essences, etc. You can tell with that little marker there next to the name. You just go, if you're in any tab, okay, let's say I'm in this sort tab, it's completely empty. I'm just holding control, and I left click, and all of it gets sorted into the proper stash tab. It's perfect. You can tell this was this essence. So if I go here, there it is. It goes right into the right spot. This makes organizing your stash tab infinitely better. So your things like your dump tab are going to be filled with just items, basically. They're just going to be filled with rares, magic items, whatever, potions, whatever you want to throw in here that's not falling under this list of stash tab affinities. It's going to make your life infinitely easier as league's going. Setting this organization now as well from standard will carry over into the league. That's key. So if you want to save time in the beginning of the league setting and not waste 10 minutes setting this up, all you have to do is set this up in standard, and it'll automatically carry over into the next league. So to sum this up, again, the most important currency tabs most important stash tabs you're going to want are things currency, map, divination, frags, if you're getting sort of that route and specific. Otherwise, getting things like a quad tab, this is going to make your life infinitely easier, but getting these quick chaos bucket tabs set up is really, really important to making early money in the league. It's going to save you tons of time. Again, if you just get an item, you're like, this is good, drop it into the 10. It doesn't sell after an hour. You're back in your hideout, getting a new map. Drop it to the 5. Takes 2 seconds, and then then you'll start seeing, maybe you get a whisper, and you're like, okay, perfect. This is around the right price. It saves you the trouble of having to price check items. It saves you the trouble of having to think too hard about it and just keep playing the game and keep making money, because again, that is the best way to make currency early league, is to just keep playing the game. So anyway, I hope you guys like this video. This is sort of a different one for me, but I can't wait for 3.14. I've got a lot of gambling ideas, and I will catch you guys in the next one.